Welcome to Leaning In with Ann Live. I'm Ann Ferguson, and I am a personal mentor. I am a mom and a grandma. I'm the daughter of a narcissist. I am the sister of someone with borderline personality disorder and a brother with bipolar, most likely, and a brother who was alcoholic in the past, and lots of stuff. I am lots of things. And because of lots of things, I do a lot of mentoring. And I help people out of the kind of messy stuff that I myself was raised in. So I saw a post this morning where somebody was saying, does anybody know anything about any books on emotional maturity? Like, I just need some help with this. And I went, me. I've been studying emotional maturity for a while now. And so today, we are going to talk about one of the aspects of emotional maturity, and that is having the ability to take accountability for your impact on somebody else. This was not something I was raised with. It is something that in my adult life, really in the last 6 months to a year, I've had to really pick this apart and try to understand it so that I can actually speak in a different way to people and take that accountability. It's a really, really weird thing, honestly. Today I'm obviously not walking. It is cold outside. I have a headache. I'm not feeling super great. And so I'm here and I'm inside and kind of taking care of me today. Let's talk about accountability for just a minute. So it really has a whole lot to do with validation. Validation has everything to do with seeing and hearing, right? All right, let's go back into your history. And we can see what accountability is not. So when this is typical of our upbringings, is that when you did something wrong, there was some kind of discipline. Some people's discipline was physical, some was timeouts, some was grounding, some was chores, all of those kind of things, right? What would you recommend for somebody who has never had examples of good coping mechanism that has created real problems in her life? I would recommend a guide. I have found for me that I can read all sorts of books and automated courses. But what I have found helps the most is to have somebody who has been where you are and has figured it out, or has figured it out and is walking. So that's why I like personal mentorship. I want to state for just a minute that therapy is really important to discover what has gone on and kind of unravel the past. But it doesn't help us then have the skills, to do all these coping mechanisms and move forward. Coping mechanisms are not super great because they're not emotionally mature, they're just coping. So we need to learn the actual skill set of the emotional maturity, turns out. So let's go back into your world just a little bit. When you were growing up, how were you disciplined if you, quote, did something wrong? So my mom screamed a lot when I was young. A lot of screaming, a lot of shaming. My dad, he was really non-existent. He was around, but it seemed like he was always working, or he was depressed and in his room a lot. He was really, really depressed. And so in his room, and then every once in a while the belt would come out. I did never get the belt, but my brothers did. So let's go with my mom for a minute with the screaming. I don't ever remember my mother ever apologizing or taking accountability for the screaming. She was a great woman. She had a lot on her plate. I now know that there was a lot of hormone imbalance. Why? Because I had that hormonal imbalance too. So I've been able to fix that, and I've had we have so much more available to us, right? And our coping mechanisms are the addictions, right? Yeah, that's what we can do a lot. And what addictions are coping mechanisms for emotional loneliness. When we are not validated, when we are not seen, when we are not heard, we are emotionally lonely. And different people will use different mechanisms to take care of that loneliness. For some, it's porn. For some, it's drugs and other chemical substances. For some, it's video games or phone games. For some, it's food. You're actually trying to get this emotionally loneliness taken care of. And the reality is, it doesn't work. Because what you need is emotional intimacy. The only way to have emotional intimacy is for you to know what you feel and be able to convey that. The problem is when you've got other people around you who are not emotionally mature, they can't take it. So blah, it all goes around and around and around. So the only person that we can help, first off, is you in changing the way that you show up in this world. And then slowly, moment by moment, emotion by emotion, this world can become emotionally healthy. I totally 100% believe it. I've watched in my own world, in my own life with my own kids. It's beautiful. The kids these days are doing emotional maturity and they are not playing around. They will completely cut you off and go, nope, this is not, the shame isn't what I want. So let's go into that shame thing for a minute. So when I was growing up, I'd love show of hands, anybody else? When I was growing up, if I did something wrong, the way to admit and show that I had done something wrong was I had to exhibit the appropriate amount of shame, right? You should be ashamed of yourself. Ever hear that phrase? The whole confess your sins really was speak about what you did in the most shameful way possible so that I know that you understand that this was not okay, right? Godly sorrow was teamed with shame. Godly sorrow is not shame. Actually not. Shame is not a godly, and what I mean by that is it's not an emotion that is from God necessarily. So even when Adam and Eve ate the apple, God goes, so what's going on here? And he just listens to them. He goes, okay, well, since you've done this, this is what we're going to do. Now, I don't know if you've read that story, but I was taught the shame that was involved in causing everything to be so bad in this world. And that is not true. I'm reading a book right now that's fascinating. It's called Original Grace. And the idea is, what if that story of Adam and Eve were not talked about as original sin, but it was the original mistake and the original grace. The first grace that was ever granted to men is in that story. Therefore, grace is always granted to us. Wouldn't that change everything? Okay. So if you were raised with shame, and that is the way that you are supposed to show up in order to show that you understand your great wrong, then you have not done what is mature, and that is called taking accountability. Well, let me explain. I'm going to give you the scenario between me and my daughter. Whew. He's a little vulnerable, guys. So, young mom, I had normal irritation, premenstrual mess, right? PMS stuff. And I had no sleep, kids, exhausting. And they just wouldn't stop. And what wouldn't they stop? They wouldn't stop being kids. Like they wouldn't stop being 2 and throwing their tantrums, and they wouldn't stop being 4 and getting locked into their ways and their whining and their stuff and being so tired. I couldn't take it. And so what did I do? I did what my mom did. Yelled and screamed, put people in timeout. I would call it psycho wench. And it was a way for me to give a little bit of grace to myself that it was happening. Oh, but it didn't help my kids because they thought later, as they would hear me say I went psycho wench on my kids, they felt like I was excusing my behavior. And in some ways, I guess I was. Every woman has that in her. Every man, I've seen men explode, blah, on people. And then what I would do when I would kind of come out of that is I would feel horribly guilty. I had learned that if I felt very, very guilty, then that meant I was repentant. That meant I was aware of my wrongdoings and all of that. So I learned at a very young age from my parents what it looked like to be sorry. There's sorry, and then there's I'm so sorry. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I can't believe I did this to you. That kind of thing. And of course, the really sorry, sad sorry, that was the one that was accepted. And I learned how to exhibit a lot of shame. I knew how to feel it. I mean, that's repentance, right? I'm not worthy of any kind of love. I'm an unworthy person because, even at the cross, I'm an unprofitable servant. Christ died for me. I didn't ever want him to die for me, but he died for me, so I caused his pain, all the shame mess that has ever been. So what I found is that I would go into my daughter's bedroom and I would try to apologize to her. But my apology was just a shame fest. It was me being ashamed. And now this is the part that's super vulnerable, is what I said to her. I said, I'm so, so sorry. I yelled, I screamed, I shouldn't do that. I don't know how much I admitted that I have heard, and I remember at least one time doing this. I'm not a great mom, and I'm so, so sorry about that. You should have been sent to a different mom. Like Heavenly Father should have sent you to someone else. You deserve so much better than me. I don't know exactly how old and how many times that this happened. What I was doing was admitting my guilt. Let me tell you what my daughter experienced. She experienced a mom who yelled and screamed. She felt horrible. And I'm not going to say that we were angels here, all right? The kids would not stop. They would do things that just is like, can we just please stop this right now? I wouldn't fly off the handle immediately. There was a whole lot of, we've got to stop. And I would try to work with them and I try to appease them and I try to, warn them. And, there was a lot that went on before the blah thing happened. At the same time, they were kids. And they had no idea how to emotionally regulate. And just like my parents expected me to just know how to emotionally regulate, I expected them to just know how to emotionally regulate. At the same time, I had no idea how to emotionally regulate. It's a mess, you guys. We're such a mess. So in that admission of guilt, of I'm such a bad mom, you deserve to be with somebody else. Heavenly Father, probably should have sent you to another mom. What she did was felt my shame and how ashamed I was. And then she felt responsible for making sure that I felt okay. No, Mom, it's okay. I understand. It was me. I shouldn't have done this. Or whatever she felt she needed to do at 7, 8, 9, 10, even 12 years old to take care of my shame. She was brave enough to, last summer, text me a message and explain some of this. And she said, I never felt like you ever took accountability for anything you did, for any impact you had. And then the next morning I'd wake up and I'd be kind of burned and tiptoeing, and then you'd want to engage, Mom. And I was still wounded because it's not like anybody had ever taken care of what I was feeling or experiencing as a kid. And then I would get mad at her and say, see, this is why we're not close, because blah, blah, blah. That's some pretty bad mom stuff right there, which then reinforces the fact that you need to go to another mom. It's a hot mess. I want you to know that you can have accountability without shame. That may be a new concept to you all, but shame is not required for accountability. Let me explain. So say you are really, really late picking somebody up. And you can go, oh, I'm so sorry, and then give all of the reasons why you were late. And hope that the other person is just going to go, oh, I totally understand. It doesn't matter. It's fine. That interchange is not emotionally mature or healthy. So we got to go really quickly into the difference between reasons and excuses first. So a reason, first of all, an excuse. Ready? I'm so sorry I was so late. All of the red lights, like every single red light, I hit on the way to come pick you up. That's an external circumstance that you cannot control. That is an excuse. A reason would be, I'm so sorry that I am late. I was on the phone talking with someone, wasn't looking at the time, and I didn't leave myself any time in case there was a problem to get here and make sure that you're picked up. That is now a reason because you're owning it. You don't have to do that with shame. I am now aware that I did not keep track of time and I caused it, I was late. Now, the other part of accountability is to go into what somebody might be experiencing based on your behavior. Now I say might because you don't know. When somebody is late to pick you up, there's so many emotions you could feel because of whatever experience you've had in the past. You could feel abandoned. You could feel rejected. You could feel forgotten. You could feel relieved if you weren't ready, when they picked you up. You could feel mildly irritated or concerned that maybe something happened or so many things. Whatever that person feels who is not picked up on time, so many things that they could possibly feel. Question, are any of those things wrong to feel? Not even one. If they're saying in their past, they're a child of visitation and dad was late all the time and then didn't show up. Abandonment could be one of the first things that show up, right? If they were supposed to be picked up and there was a whole bunch of friends that was going to go somewhere and then they just didn't, they could totally just, from their past, they could feel rejected, right? There are so many things that's possible to feel. If you're the one who's late and you're taking responsibility for your actions, then what that means is you say, I was late. I didn't get here on time. I didn't prepare, shut down, remember, set the alarm, whatever, take responsibility. And then let them speak what they felt. So I'm assuming that you had some pretty uncomfortable feelings while you were waiting for me. Yeah, I'm really sorry about that. You could even say you may have felt abandoned. I'm so sorry if you felt forgotten. Let them speak what they feel without you taking on the shame. So it could be, I apologize for being late. I did not leave enough time to get here, and that could have caused you some real yucky feelings. It was not my intention. Are you okay? Do you feel sad? Do you feel this? Do you feel that? Like, let them speak if they want to. And then don't make them wrong. Go, yeah, I can totally see why my being late would do that. So in the future, what I'm going to do is this or that. So in my case with my daughter and the screaming, I'm so sorry. I lost my cool, and I imagine that you might have felt really scared and confused. And I'm just wondering, is that what you felt? When mom screams, how do you feel when mom screams? And let her just speak it. I'm scared, I feel bad, I understand why you would feel bad. And I understand that I need to help with that, but I think maybe we could do something together. Can we have a signal that when mommy's patience is gone because maybe I haven't had enough sleep and my brain is tired? You know how you get fussy and you get kind of cranky when you're really tired? Sometimes mommy does that too. So maybe we could have some kind of word where I go, hey, so I'm really tired and I really can't do this right now. Can you help mommy? Bye. You know? And maybe that can help. It's not your child's responsibility to make sure you are emotionally okay. That is yours, but it helps them know what can be done. Maybe you get something worked out a little bit, right? The biggest thing is for you to know that with your children, they are not responsible for your emotional well-being at all. And when you lose it on them, you need to say something about it. Now, here's the big thing. My behavior impacted you. I didn't make you feel abandoned. I didn't make you feel sad. You can't make anybody feel anything. It's not possible. Believe me, you guys have heard me say this before. If I could make somebody feel something, I would not make them feel abandoned. Like, how many people in this world do you just wish with every ounce of your being you could make feel happy or whole? Or you could make feel important and special. You could make feel valid and valued. Like, how many people, if you could make them feel, would you want to make them feel that? You can't actually make anybody feel. You can have impact. One of the things that I experienced with a relationship that I was in with somebody who has Asperger's, an adult, is that they actually don't have any awareness that their behavior impacts anyone. And so there's always the reason why I was ridiculous and I shouldn't feel whatever I was feeling, because, you know, as long as there was an explanation, I should just receive it, brush it off. There's nothing that you need to feel about this. That is not taking accountability. So we're going to go over this one last little time and then we're going to be done. Accountability is when you say, I am now aware that what I did had some impact on your emotional responses. I would love to hear what those emotional responses are. Like, what did you feel? I can see how what I did impacted that feeling in you. And you know what? I just really love you. And that is never what I desire, is to have negative impact. So, in the future, moving forward, this is what I'd like to do. Now, if you have felt like, if somebody's really, really late and you're feeling really panicked and you're not knowing if you should call somebody, if you should wait around, if, like what you should do with that, and somebody says, hey, so I was really late and I'm sure that caused you some discomfort. And you can say, yeah, I didn't even know what to do. I didn't know if I should call somebody, if I should just wait, or I didn't know. And it was really confusing. I can see why that was really confusing for you. I'm so sorry that that was your experience. What can I do? Is there anything I can do for you right now because you're kind of feeling wonky? That, can you imagine if somebody actually said that to you? You'd go, oh my gosh, I feel so seen and so heard, right? Do you see that there's no shame in that at all? Awareness does not have to be laced with shame. It's just, I am aware that what I did this. If two people can do that back and forth, now there's intimacy. Hey, babe. So I know you were trying to flirt, but you haven't actually really like even hugged me or spoken to me for a little while. And then all of a sudden there was like this sexual thing. And while in the past it's been kind of fun, when I feel kind of neglected, you know, on an emotional level, it feels more like a booty call. It doesn't feel like a flirt. And I just needed you to know that. Oh man, you were right. I can see that I've just been so preoccupied with work that I haven't really... How are you? Like, what's going on with you right now? Can you see that awareness, rather than I'm going to puff up and get really angry and defensive, is so validating and so healing. So the goal for today is to, without shame, be aware of your impact. That can be positive too. Did you have positive impact on someone? And when somebody says, thank you so much, like this really mattered, can you receive accountability and go, I had positive impact today. That feels really good. Rather than always going, yeah, but I didn't do this and I didn't do that, and diving into your shame. The whole goal of emotional immaturity is to be able to feel what you feel, communicate what you feel, and not dive into shame. Stay in awareness and stay present. If you have people that are not able to handle that, then you get to do something completely different. One of the most brilliant things I ever witnessed was a situation that was very intense at an airport with rental cars. And this person, the company had really, really, really messed up. And I was with someone and she went to the counter and you could see the defense mechanisms of the person already. You either get defensive and block, or you go into shame and you implode. Those are really the two options that we have been taught. Either block it, I'm not going to take this from you. What are they not going to take? The shame. I'm not going to be ashamed. Or, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry. So this woman was absolutely 100% in the blocked mode. This is what she said. The gal who was working it out with the company. She says, look, she could see the defense mechanisms show up, and she says, look, you and I are going to be friends at the end of this conversation. What I would like is to share with you all that's going down and what I've experienced and what I would like, and then you can share with me what you think you can do, and then, we're going to get along fine. We're going to be friends. Is that okay? Can you listen to me all the way? Because what was happening was the minute she started to speak, the one who was trying to unravel all the mess, the employee, she was like, yeah, but this and this, and why don't you just come down here, and I'm just going to, wasn't even listening. Can you imagine that? Hey, sweetheart, by the end of this conversation, you and I are going to be closer. What I desire is for you to listen to me all the way through, hear what my experience was, and then I want to hear yours. And when we're done with that, we're going to figure out what we're going to do about it all. Can we do that? I would love for you to try something like that. Something like that. It would be beautiful. And I hope that this was helpful. We may take this into tomorrow. If you have any more questions, please let me know. You've got somebody who's really emotionally immature. If they're addicted, and you can say, hey, I want you and I to be friends, and I want you to know that I love you. I want you to hear what your behavior has done and has impact without shame. Just see if you can be in awareness. And I would love to hear what your side is. Let's see if we can figure this out. That's what an intervention is, right? We sit and we listen all the way through and say, I need to hear you. Share with me all. And we don't get the ability to jump into that and to defend ourselves. We just hear. If you find yourself defensive, you're not listening. You're just shaming. Now, if you want real help with this, Igniting Your Belief is the place to come. Lots of you here have been on Igniting Your Belief or are taking it now. We are going to continue to work on this. We're going to figure it out and figure out how to have appropriate healthy boundaries, how to have appropriate healthy conversations, and accountability. It's all about validation. All right, everybody, have a super good day. I'll see you tomorrow.